Hi everyone and welcome to Cyber Chat, a platform where we discuss strategies, trends, and industry insights to help you power up your cyber resiliency. I'm Gareth Russell, your host today, and I'm super excited about today's episode. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit of a curveball, but we're going to dive in and discuss the similarities and maybe the differences between cyber resiliency and professional sports. I know that sounds a little bit strange, but stay with me. We have an absolutely legendary guest with us today, and let's see what you think at the end of today's chat. All right, let me introduce you to Brooke Hanson. Thanks for joining us today, Brooke.
It is so exciting to be a special guest as an Olympic champion. I cannot wait to dive really deep into those parallels between us both.
Awesome. And so where do I start, Brooke? Olympian, world champion, Olympic gold and silver medalist, motivational speaker, author, just so many things on your resume.
I'm just so proud of everything that I've achieved in my career, and then I just continue to challenge myself every day in new adventures. And I think it's so nice to always reflect on what I have achieved in elite sport, and then now as a motivational speaker and as someone that really empowers others to be their best and to lead with purpose and passion. I have so much, spark in my step every day to get up and achieve greatness.
Amazing. And so we've got the 33rd Summer Olympics happening at the moment in Paris. What's it like as an Olympian seeing all of the broadcasts, the opening ceremony, all of the media? Do you still get goosebumps? What memories does it bring back?
It brings back every single memory of what it took, first of all, to be an Olympian and to be an Olympic gold and silver medalist. But for me, when I look at everyone achieving greatness over there and I look at just the athletes, the hard work that they've put into it, they don't always get it right, and sometimes they fall short of those expectations. There's others that are, of course, achieving that goal and that dream of Olympic gold. So for me, it is that pinch yourself moment of, hey, I did this. Yep. And this was 20 years ago now, but you were at the top of the world at your sport. And it's a really nice space to be in, just to reflect. And I say that reflection equals growth. So that's where, you learn, grow, discover so much more about yourself when you can actually sit in that silence and go, hey, I've been there. I've done exactly what they're doing in Paris.
Absolutely. And I think back to Tokyo 2021, and I was actually in hotel quarantine while those Olympics was happening. And it was all of those events that I hadn't seen before, like the 50K walk and the triathlon, all that sort of stuff, because they were the long ones that was helping me kind of get through quarantine. And it's good to see Paris kind of coming back to, having all of the crowd there and the athletes being able to have their family there, and a little bit back to, that energy of what it can be, right? So
yeah, and that's the Olympic spirit. That's what it's all about. It's about the supporters. It's about the family. It's about, your mum and dad that have driven you to swimming training at 4 o'clock in the morning. 100%. And it's great to share that with the world and share that with your teammates. And, teamwork's definitely so important when it comes to the Australian team. And to have BK, the boxing kangaroo, he's just always there to support us and to have those mentors around the Olympic team. It's always just so proud to wear the green and gold, the coat of arms on your chest, and just be at the biggest sporting event in the world.
Amazing. All right, so let me get into it. Here's where I think that our universes collide. So here at Commvault, we work a lot with companies and organizations around cyber resiliency, and that's really to help them understand how do they withstand and recover from a cyber attack. And that's around protecting data, being able to respond to threats, and really being able to get the recovery of their business operations online quickly. And when you boil that all down, it really comes down to having a plan and knowing how to test that plan and having that kind of routine and discipline and really the kind of muscle memory so that when you do, experience a cyber event, you do know how to respond and you do know how to kind of put things back together and that sort of stuff. So I guess the first parallel is really around like training and routine and discipline. And like, what's your take on that as a, kind of training for your sport and kind of giving everything into it? And what's some kind of key takeaways for all of the cyber teams out there today?
Yeah, I think like the cyber teams and the Olympic teams, it's all about that preparation. So for us, it was prior preparation prevents poor performance. So you need to do that preparation. You need to be ready. You need to be fully committed every single day and consistently turn up, show up, but always looking at staying ahead of the rest of your competitors.
Yeah.
So for me, it was always about, being in that bubble, trusting the process, thinking about what I could do to achieve greatness, but then also recognizing that my threats were there and they were my competitors, but what could I do to continue to achieve greatness, to continue to challenge myself every single day. And then when it came to that race plan, it was all about the preparation. And with athletes, we're always fully committed. We see that pressure as a privilege. And I guess that the cybersecurity team as well, like it is intense. It is, it's stressful at times, but you have to see that as a privilege to be in that position and to be leading the way in everything you do, exactly like an athlete.
And so how important is it to be able to have that support network behind you in creating those plans? And so like having your coach and your dietitian and everyone else that kind of helps that, does that really kind of emphasize all the different components that make up your regime and your plan? Without
doubt. And you hear it all the time that the teamwork makes the dream work. It makes the dream work every day, whether you're an athlete, whether you're in a cyber team, wherever you are, whatever you do for a crust, whatever your role is, it comes back to really understanding that it's not just you, it is the team around you. And the more that you can take that team on the journey, you can celebrate that together. So for me as an elite athlete, I stand there and I give that performance in that one moment under that pressure that I see as a privilege. But there was the head coach, the assistant coach, the strength and conditioning coach, the psychologist, the dietitians, the sports scientists, and of course all of the other managers and, media liaison officers and everyone that supported you to that moment. They are all part of that gold medal winning performance. And it's exactly exactly the same as cyber safety. It's that team that is willing to make sure that they are going to put their best step forward to make sure that you're achieving great outcomes for everyone.
And we see that as well in that space in terms of like having everyone provide their input, because each of that little kind of diverse piece of input really helps you strengthen your overall plan. And then each of your people helping, understanding and knowing what to do at what time and how to help you be successful through that process. So it's absolutely amazing.
I think what's really important is just understanding all the different individuals within each of the teams. And we've seen so much success, of course, from the swim team. And I love reflecting on, what we achieved in Sydney 2000, the Olympics I went to, Athens 2004. It was all about that teamwork, recognizing that we're all individuals and we can all just take a little something from every single person in that team to get the best outcome.
I love it. So maybe we shift gears a little bit to focus. And when I look at a lot of the cyber resiliency teams, there's so much to focus on. You've got events coming in, you have telemetry, you have triggers, you have, your boss telling you to do something, the board telling you to do something. There's so much to have to focus on at any given point in time. And it's not like it only happens from 9 to 5. This is happening 24/7, right? And what does that look like from a swimming perspective? Are you focusing on your next breath? Is it your next stroke? Are you focusing on the competitor next to you or the wall in front of you? Like, how do you put all those different kind of focus points into the mindset of what it means to swim a race?
Yeah, well, to be an elite athlete, you are on all the time. So similar to being ready 24/7, you've got to be ready. And for me, I think athletes really are able to compartmentalize it. So you are totally present and you're in that moment. And when you look at that list of things that you've got to get through, or you might have a lot of work that you've got on your plate. For us as athletes, we look at what is that number one thing that I have to achieve in this moment right now. and you're able to work backwards from that. And you may have, 1,000 things that your coach has told you to do, but how can I compartmentalize that, break it down, and focus on that next breath, that stroke, those key words of, for me, it was long, strong, forward. That would keep me in that zone. And so I think that's, again, those parallels between those two worlds are just so important, because you know that you've got a lot on. You've got to see that you can, break it down a bit, focus on what needs to be done in this moment, be present with that, move on to the next thing. What else do we have to achieve today? And as an athlete, I think, I did it so well. I could just put that aside and then just move forward with that next breath, not worrying about what my competitors were doing, because that's totally outside my control, but I can control the controllables, and the controllables is I'm present, I'm in this moment, this is what I have to achieve over, the next stroke, the next 50, the next 100, and then straight into recovery.
I got it. And really that kind of focus, cadence and discipline around putting all those things together is such an important part to it. What about the mental side of things? We look at the Olympics, we look at the Commonwealth Games, we look at the World Championships, like just absolutely massive events, huge crowds, how do you mentally kind of prepare? And I guess the slight difference is, as a sporting athlete, this event's coming up, right? So, maybe you've got that kind of that essence of preparing for something that's known. But in the cyber resiliency world, you don't know if today you're going to be attacked or tomorrow you're going to be attacked. So what's that kind of mental preparation look like? And do you have any kind of takeaways or any tips and tricks and that side of things?
Yeah, again, it's about that preparation. So knowing that you've got that big championships coming up, but sometimes not knowing what your competitors have got up their sleeve as well. So that mental piece for me was always about visualizing the greatest outcome. So really thinking about that mindfulness when I could close my eyes, visualize that, best race, that ultimate dream of standing on the podium. So a lot of work when it came to resilience was that mindset of I've done this a million times in my head. I've done it thousands of times in training. And when I step up and I'm ready to go, I will achieve personal greatness because I've visually seen it. I've really resonated with it every day. I've sat in it, and then I've trained, and I have trained 70 kilometers a week in the pool, and I've done it time and time again every single day in that, in that scenario. So all of that just builds confidence, and that confidence just, that allowed me to, be in that space where I realized that I'd worked so hard on my strengths, and that strength was that winning mindset of you can do it, believe in yourself, back yourself, and you do you every single day to the best of your ability.
Absolutely. And do you see in that kind of mental preparation, like as you're going to sleep, you're dreaming about what the race is going to be, or you've been in that pool so many times that you know how many strokes and what it's going to be like from the water perspective? How does that kind of you have that level of comfort, or you're always expecting the unexpected?
You can expect the unexpected, but you need to be prepared for that. And so if something does go wrong, you're straight in that mode of laying in bed and thinking about that race that you could see in your head, and you've done it a million times. And if something does go wrong, well, stick to that race plan. And we need to still, execute that best race plan as best as possible. And for me, under that much pressure, I achieved Olympic greatness, gold and silver, but I swam my personal best times. Yeah. Under that much pressure, saw it as a privilege with those crowds and the weight of the expectation. That was a privilege as well. So I think it's it's an important space to be in, because it's the resilience and the strength that helps you move forward. Yeah,
because you're often going into these swim meets as the Australian team as the kind of best in the world, and that kind of, expectation that, you're the ones to beat type thing from that side of things. Celebrating that success must be a huge part of it as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of teams, around the world, where in sport, in corporate space, in cyberspace, it's like they don't celebrate those moments.
Yeah.
And you need to celebrate. If there's a threat and you're able to take care of it, you celebrate that. Yeah. With us, we stand up there with BK and we win the gold medal. It's like, let's celebrate individual success and the team success. And I think that's a really important part of moving forward with confidence and just making sure you're there for the team and you're patting each other on the back to say, hey, we nailed that and let's move forward and make ourselves even better next time.
Yeah, I mean, because there's only so much space you can have in these stadiums, and it's so fantastic to see. It may not be your event or it may not be your heat, but like everyone's up in the stands cheering each other on. You can see the green and gold from a mile away. So, it must just add to the atmosphere and make it such a special moment for everybody.
Totally a special moment. And when you can look up and see your own teammates that have done the exact same hard work as what you have, you just get it. You're just part of this really special family because you know what it's taken. For me, it was 22 years of dreaming, believing, finally achieving to stand on that podium. And everyone has a journey. And I think that's really important as well, is just to understand that we all go through the hard yards and obstacles and hurdles to actually achieve that big moment in sport. But it's worth it when you can share it with those that have done it with you.
So what does it look like from a time perspective? You mentioned 22 years, and I think, both swimming and cyber resiliency have this interesting unit of measure that's time, right? And maybe it's seconds in the cyber resiliency world, and maybe it's hundreds of a second in the swimming pool. But, from a cyber perspective, the more time an attacker has in your network, the more control they gain, or the longer it takes for you to patch a vulnerability, the more exposed you are. But the time differential, it's probably like, the difference between a personal best, or it's the difference between qualifying or not qualifying. And like, how has that motivated you on your journey?
For me, it was the biggest motivator because all I wanted to be was an Olympian. I wanted to be an Olympian from a really young age. And then to miss out as an 18-year-old by 11 100ths of a second. 11 100ths of a second. Like, it's hard to get that on a stopwatch or, we blink and, there you go. And that was tough. So again, that resilience and that consistency and of being true to yourself, of like, I'm going to swim another 4 years, I'm going to go to the next games, and then to turn up, give your best, and then miss out by 0.77 of a second. Again, it's just like it's the smallest of margins, and I guess that's when you really start thinking about do I retire from the sport? Do I continue, or where do I sit with this? Do I have what it takes? Yep. And that's it's a hard question to ask. And then for me, I had to dig pretty deep and go, I've got what it takes, and I can swim another 4 years to achieve that 22-year dream that it took to get there. And I had that dream at the age of 4. So to finally achieve it at the age of 26, I love that I can continue to be a role model for anyone else. That you're never too old in no matter what you do. You're never too old to just knuckle down and go, do you know what? I'm really passionate about this, and I'm going to move forward.
Yep. And so does your mindset change in that process? Because, like, to have that happen twice, and somewhere in between there was like the home games in Sydney as well, right? Like, does it change? Do you have to change it up a little bit, think about doing something differently, or like, what's that? How do you keep going in that space? Because I'm sure, you have the determination, but you've got to figure out the new formula, or something is going to kind of, take you to that next level. Yeah,
and I think I'd probably get in my head a little bit, especially being younger. I was just probably comparing myself to my other competitors and never truly believing, like deep down, never truly believing that I could beat them or that I could be the best in the world. So my mindset and the work that I really did on myself as an athlete, and then with the psychologist, was just like, you can be the best in the world, and you will be the best in the world, and you need to start training your body and your mind every day to be the best in the world. And that came from, obviously physically, I had to turn up every day and do that, but also mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I just had to start leading every day as an Olympic champion even though I hadn't got there. And I wish, you always wish that you could have landed there a lot earlier, but hey, finally, it may have taken, a long time for the penny to drop, but I was stoked when it finally dropped to say, hey, no, own it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's all wrapped up in your destiny and your own journey as part of that process. And you had an amazing Olympic campaign. And, I think part of that process as well is just all that change and all that mindset and all that development and growth. And, that was just kind of part of your journey, right? So
totally part of the journey. And I just think back to, I guess, even how technology changed in that time. Yep. So we saw it just go from, we never had, when I started up, we never even had anti-wave lane ropes. And then to see technology and sports science come as far as it did, even in the 20 years that I was swimming on the Australian swim team and proud to represent Australia over 25 times. But when you look at the technology and now the improvements in time, it comes from so many levels of not just turning up in your Speedos every day and just swimming. There's a lot more levels of technology that has really helped us to achieve that greatness.
All right, you got to let me kind of turbo nerd out on the technology stuff for a little bit, right? Because it's such a big part of how our cyber teams kind of set up and organized. And one of the biggest elements of that is super, super helpful is simulating and kind of running through like a simulation of what an attack could look like in the real world and how can you get your defenses to what they need to be and your recovery plans and everything else from that side of things. But what does technology look like in the pool? I'm kind of imagining a view where you get these kind of like the goggles that have like the virtual reality and the augmented reality. Are we that? Like, is that what's coming?
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
here?
And that's already here. Wow. And for I guess those sports scientists to really show us. And for me, I am a visual learner. Yeah. So I would just, what do you mean? Like the stroke's not right or the kick or, you'd be like, oh, I'm doing this right. And so to hop out of the pool with, all the cameras underwater and above the water and then for you to actually, put those goggles on and then see what you're doing right, I was just, I thought that I was doing it right, but I'm not actually doing it properly. Yeah. And so that was a real game changer for me to visually be able to see where I could make those I guess really small.
But all those small things probably add up to make a big difference in the end, right?
Oh yeah, well that's the difference between missing the team or missing a PB and standing on the Olympic podium. And so that definitely was huge. And then of course we saw the super swim era where the swimsuits were made into these super swimsuits and they were neutral buoyancy. So they didn't sink and they didn't, lift you onto the surface either. So they were faster than human skin. So they did get banned in the end because they were just incredible suits. But to see the pools get faster, they're now looking at the depths of the pool. Then, of course, the sports science side of, making an athlete even faster from every single thing that you do with your hand. We've got some of our athletes leading into Paris, they were sleeping in altitude tents.
Wow. Okay.
And just so many different layers, whether it's from a swim cap or two swim caps with your goggles underneath, so your goggle strap's not flapping. Yeah. So those couple 100ths of a second mean everything when it comes to that technology.
I see a lot of those kind of like those endless swimming pools, right, where you can just kind of swim on forever. Like, do you think we're going to get like an artificial intelligence endless swimming pool that's going to be able to change conditions and change the water and things like that? Or like, do they help in some of the training and routine and things like that or not?
I think we're going to head more towards, because that stuff all exists, but I think we're going to head more towards an athlete, particularly a swimmer, not doing 70 kilometres a week in the pool. And we see a lot of athletes over there realising that it's more about strength and it's Pilates and it's yoga and it's like the holistic approach to being an elite athlete. So we can have all of that incredible technology, but I think we're learning more about, I guess, the human body and the swimmer's body, and that not always training that much in the pool will always mean that you're going to be the top of the podium. So I reckon a lot more flexibility when it comes to the diversity of training. That's what we'll see in the future.
And so that pivot also, I guess, is important from like injury prevention and making sure that if the technology can help identify from an injury perspective, then you'll have more to give back or more to recover from and things like that?
Without doubt. And I guess the technology, again, has helped with all of that. And then being able to look at those shoulder injuries before they happen. And then the ice baths and the hot cold and what you need to do to recover as quick as you can to step back on the blocks and do the next race. So we've learned a lot, and we're continuing to work with that whole support team, and that is the physios, the chiropractors, the massage staff, and everyone that's, make sure that your body is 100% when it's on the line. So again, that when that teamwork makes the dream work, they actually, every single part of that helps you stand there to know that you've got the confidence to strive for excellence.
And another kind of similarity is definitely on the recovery side. And, usually for the cyber folks out there, recovery is around helping to bring back a system or a file or an application. But recovery for a human is more around, the ability to get some rest and have the right nutrition. And, that obviously must play a huge role in just preparation and planning for these events and, just having your body ready to go and to kind of go through the stresses of what you're about to do, whether it's swimming or something else.
Yeah, the recovery part of being an elite athlete, it's huge. And I think it's so important, even more important than that preparation and then all of the hard training and all of the competitions you've done in the build-up. If you're not recovering and you're not resting your mind and your body and doing all the right things by, of course, your nutrition and your supplements and all of your recovery techniques, whatever that is, if you need the massage, if you need the ice baths, everyone's quite different and very individual on how they can get rid of all of their lactic acid. But if you're not putting recovery into your sessions, into your competition, you're not going to stand on that podium. Yep. So I think that's ends up being a huge part of how we can continue to shine. It's like recovery is just as important as that preparation.
Got it. What about the kind of long-term vision and, having a strategy that really kind of helps you to achieve your goals and set your goals? Are you setting goals like years in advance or next week in advance? How are you kind of like putting together your vision and your strategy to really kind of understand like making the most out of your career?
Yeah, I guess for me, even now as a businesswoman, it's just I learned so much from being an elite athlete of those goal setting skills. So, of course, if you miss the Olympics, the Olympics is in 4 years' time. Yep. And usually a Commonwealth Games is in 2 years. So, the Commonwealth Games would be 2 years away. You'd then have a World Championships, a World Short Course. So, Pan-Pacific titles. So there'd always be something every single year, something major. But then you'd sort of work backwards from there and just go, okay, what is the goal this season? What is the goal next season? What is the goal this month, this year, 4 years' time, 8 years' time, long term? Come back to those medium, I guess, goals, which would be the next year. And then the short term, which is what can we achieve this week? What can we achieve daily? Yeah. What do I need to consistently do daily to achieve that goal of the week? And again, that came back to accountability. We have to make ourselves accountable.
For sure.
In your role, you have to be accountable for everything you need to deliver. Exactly the same with me as an athlete. You have to be able to be accountable to deliver those, I guess, the key moments daily to achieve greatness. By the end of the week, look back and go, okay, well, let's head towards that monthly goal. And then the season goal is to for me, was always to be on the podium at a world titles. Yep. And then really still go, okay, that's a stepping stone to what is the long-term goal, which would be an Olympics.
And how do you tie in the situational awareness to say, oh, I got to change these goals, or I need to make them more aggressive or make them more conservative? Like, how do you do you know what I mean? Because it's easy to get stuck on like focusing so hard that, you kind of blur out everything else. But I think it's important, and we see it a lot in our industry, where your goals, they need to change sometimes, right? You have to iterate, you have to have some flexibility, you have to be agile, you have to repair some things. And so, the goals also fit into that category of having to be a little bit more flexible. Does that kind of fit into like the kind of sequence of things, or how does that work?
Yeah, you need to be. You need to be exactly like you said. You have to be flexible, and you've got to adapt and overcome. That goal for me was I'm going to make the Olympics team. And then when you miss out by a couple 100ths of a second, it's like, where do we go from here? Yeah. And then so you've got to take a step back and go, oh, like the next year looks nothing like the ultimate plan was we'll go into the Olympics. We're now not going. Like, what do we do? So it's like take that step back and go, okay, again, that accountability is on me, but I'm going to sit down with myself and then sit down with my team and go, well, what are our new goals? And we need those new goals to continue to strive forward. But yeah, if you just went, oh well, I haven't made it, you'd probably be stuck in no man's land. And that's when you do see a lot of people, leave the industry or leave the sport because they don't have they're not goal orientated and don't have that next thing to aim towards and to strive towards. That was really important for me. But realizing if you're not flexible, well, you're really you'll struggle sometimes when you do have setbacks.
Yeah, we definitely see like going through an incident or going through a breach. That's not for everybody, right? And when you will lose some people as part of that process, and that's okay. And it's about kind of coming back together, and your plan only is really as good as the first time you use it, because you've then got to go back and update it and kind of continue to work on it. I think that's part of the course of being able to continue and celebrate that success and kind of rework what you need to do to stay competitive in that space.
You have to be. And if you're not willing to do it, I say be all in.
Yeah.
Be all in and be fully committed, or stop messing around. Get all out. Be all in and be in the moment. You're passionate about what you do. You love what you do. So give your best every single day. And if you lose your way, you have to remember why you started.
Yeah.
Why did you start in this business? I can tell just by us chatting, you absolutely love what you do. And when you lose your way, or if it's all too overwhelming, you've got to take that step back and go, hey, I love this. Yeah. I absolutely love it. And this is, this gives me motivation to get up every day and to make sure I'm doing, the right thing by the world and keeping people safe. I'm like, I was exactly the same. Be all in, be committed to that, and own it. You need to own your own path.
Yeah, and just remember why you're waking up every day to turn up to that, and the ability to give back globally and help organizations in these type of events is it has that reward that comes with it as well, right? So incredibly satisfying. So
satisfying. I probably can't imagine what your whole team would be going through, just making sure that even all of the athletes, 10,500 athletes that are at the Olympic Games, how are they all staying cyber safe? I think about those moments of all of those athletes, the best in the world, what happens behind the scenes to make sure that they, with everything. And so I do go there, but everyone else might just go, it's there, it's in the background, it'll be right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Brooke, thank you so much for your time today. I've got one more kind of fun cyber safe question to kind of close this out. And I was wondering if you could tell us, how would you create a secure password?
A secure password.
Yeah, secure password.
Well, you can tell me if I'm wrong with this, but I would always think that I'd go for a pretty long word, maybe 10, 12, 14 characters. I'd make sure I've got uppercase, lowercase, maybe a couple little other, I don't know,
Special characters,
if that's what you call it. And then for me, I guess I try and not use the same password for this is what I tell at least my parents and aunts and uncles. It's don't use the same password for the 100 things that you need a password for, which a lot of people do because they just want to remember that one password. So would I be correct, or can you give me some more advice with that?
No, you've absolutely nailed it, and you've got a cyber safe tech support career ahead of you as well from that side of things. Thank you, Brooke. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. I think we got to so many parallels and similarities between cyber resilience and professional sports. And so thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Gareth. And all the best to the entire team. Keep up the great work and continue to shine. It's just awesome that you're so passionate about your space.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Until next time, stay resilient.